mean, I'm pretty sure you have it, but that was what I did address.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Public Safety Committee for August 26, 2025. Welcome. First item of business is, are there any changes to the agenda? I did want to note for the committee members, we got an email with information on the CGR report, and we'll talk about it later in the meeting, but you should have had a chance to look through that. Next item is public comment. Let's see. Is this a new resolution?
It's 9C. The resolution should be provided at the meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's in the agenda. All right. Let's proceed to public comment. I have one blue card. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Amanda Kirch-Gessner. I'm a resident in the town of Ulysses, and I'm here today to comment specifically on the jail population numbers. I'm sure you're paying high-end consultants to tell you why there are people in our jail. Zach Wynn has spoken a lot about methamphetamine being at a crisis point in our community. And then I would encourage any of you to go sit in a wellness court at the city of Ithaca or a drug court at the county court, and you will understand a large driver behind the numbers. There aren't enough beds to put people in for rehabilitative services, and the wellness court doesn't actually stabilize people in the community. It's just a revolving door. They go up to the jail, they get the health care that they need, and then they send them back out into the community, where they then create more issues because they're not getting the stabilization support that they need locally. You know, that's a simple one. Mike Sigler was kind enough to point out that there's a resolution also to discuss security officers. If that's not under the sheriff's department, don't do it. Our sheriff's department is one of the best in the state, and you absolutely want an elected person overseeing any type of expansion of security in our county. I'm a temporary employee at the New York State Fair. It's pretty awesome. I have a state job, everybody. I'm making $16 an hour. They're very good at scheduling people so they don't need to get breaks. It's very interesting how everything seems to roll downhill there. But I would encourage us to maybe explore this example as how we might do things better locally. i.e., if you're in an elected office, please talk to people who actually hold the entry-level positions within the county departments. They have a lot of insight into how things could function better. You don't need to pay a consultant a lot of money to tell you. People will volunteer information, especially if you listen and respond. It's pretty wild how that works. Let's see. Yeah, oh, this was funny too. I had the luck of crossing paths with the Onondaga County Sheriff yesterday. His name is Toby Shelley. But I told him I was from Tompkins County, and he says, oh, that's a mess. So I think you might look at that perspective of somebody who's in a county of almost 500,000 people and what we're dealing with. Because if a community of highly educated people, many holding Ivy League degrees, can't figure out how to create a functional social support network that actually centers public safety and community health and wellness, we have a problem. So let's talk, let's sort it out, because we actually have something called money that a lot of communities around us don't have, and we actually have educated people, which is something a lot of communities around us, for some reason, we think they don't have, but for some reason, they seem to think things here are worse than other places. So just some food for thought. Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Thank you, Amanda. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the committee? All right. Seeing none, I proceed to minutes approval for our July 22nd, 2025 meeting. Shauna moves. Veronica seconds. Questions, comments? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Great. Let's see. Next up is Chair's report, and we were going to revisit our conversation from last month to see if there was any further thought on what might be driving jail numbers. We certainly had somebody visit with us a moment ago who indicated methamphetamine is a major driver and the other drugs in the community. I think I agree with that. But I'd like to give everybody a chance just to weigh in if you had any further thinking on where these numbers might be going. And again, to remind everybody, part of the reason we went through this exercise last month is that we are in the future doing a jail expansion, at least we've indicated that's our intent. And jail size is one of the things we would need to decide, we being future legislatures, I think. And our working hypothesis was to keep the same numbers. But we're pretty close to what our classification system allows us to hold in our jail. And another consensus point, I think, is that we wanted to avoid board outs. And we may be looking at a situation where if these numbers stay where they are, we will see regular board outs. But I'd welcome conversation on that. Matt?
I think as a baseline for this conversation, it should be noted that Monday's jail numbers were 57.
Really? I did not check Monday, yesterday. As you know, I do it at every legislature meeting.
Sorry to interrupt, just for the recording, could you say that again into the microphone?
Sure. Monday's jail numbers, yesterday's jail numbers, there were 57 individuals in our jail.
Oh.
So I think that's significantly less than the last month when we were here, and just kind of a testimony to the fact that there is such a cyclical pattern to the number of individuals who are in the jail. And some of that is people who have been sentenced, some of it, the 20, and Derek's got his hand up, he might have more information. Some are people going to inpatient, some are people finishing their sentences of local jail. So there's just such variety of reasons why people are there that, that amount of fluctuation is inevitable.
Yeah. Let's hear it from the sheriff, and then I'll go to you, Shauna. Derek,
yeah,
welcome.
thanks, Rich. It's even better than what Matt just pointed out. I just checked 30 seconds ago. Our head count right now is 55, and we have 0 board outs.
Is there any reasons why we dropped like that? We were up at, what, 63 last week, was it?
Well, I know going back to last meeting, we did have several that went to state. I know there was a backlog of that. Just getting back into the workplace, being on vacation, I'm not sure what happened in the last week or so, but I'm comfortable with it that we're back down to what we were originally seeing or close to it. So, like Matt said, I think it's just cyclical for the most part.
Okay. Well, that's certainly good news. If it's cyclical, if it goes down, it can go back up. The difficult thing we need to try to do is to figure out what is a reasonable number. Where do we think it will be, and where will it be, say, in 5 to 10 years, which is pretty difficult to do, but I'm still wondering if an 82 number is a total number for the jail is large enough. But I'd welcome comment on that. I certainly don't want to sit here and suggest we should build a big jail. I don't think that accords with the philosophy we've followed in Tompkins County, but at the same time, we want to have sufficient capacity that we can hold the people that are arrested here. Anybody have thoughts on that? Shauna? Sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, that's all right. I actually think that over the years, we have been a leader in the state, and I'll continue to think that due to a few factors. I think, for one, the DA that we've all elected has a mindset that the last place he wants to put people is behind bars. I think most of us on this legislature agree that whenever people are incarcerated, it hurts their future. They're not getting the services that they need necessarily, and I do believe that we do have services, that are offered through the jail, but it really is not a place where people are going to rehab. As a county, we have made it our commitment and our priority to put over $1 million in ATIs. I think that having mental health and wellness court, they're not perfect, certainly, but I think they're giving the tools that they have at their disposal. I think the fact that we had bail reform way before the state had even started it. We've offered, through the OAR program, the $10,000 that we put forth as a county way before the state had that. I will continue to have in the back of my mind that the problems that we have that are on a national level, of course, tend to be with mental health and substance use disorder. I mean, those are two issues that every single city, county in the nation are struggling with. Right now, we don't have a detox system. We don't have a place where people that want help, that need help, can go to locally. As we all know that if people want to stop using drugs, the minute they say, I don't want to use drugs anymore, they need to go to that location, and we don't have that at our disposal. The other thing is rehab. Many of our state rehab facilities, it takes weeks and weeks to get a spot. And again, during that window, whenever someone says, I want to stop using drugs, typically by the time they get a spot, they're back to using drugs. And then the other kind of elephant in the room is the mental health aspect. I think after COVID, even people that were mentally healthy have been struggling with mental health issues. We see kids that have been isolated for 2-3 years because of COVID. They're going through high school, they're going into college, and they're really more or less stunted for 2 years. And we're seeing that in all populations. There's absolutely very, very little help for people that have severe mental health issues. Locally, on the state level, I'm sure we can all talk about the state institutions that have been shut down. While I'm not for institutionalizing people, I do believe that there are certain people that are a risk to themselves and others. And, even having family members that have struggled with mental health, there's definitely a lack of help here. So I think it's like the perfect storm sometimes. And whenever we see our jail numbers go up, I think they were 63, 67. At one point, we were going right on the tip of where we needed to be to start outboarding. We know that we had some state holdings that we were keeping that the state wasn't keeping because of the correction officer strikes, and so we've started seeing the pipeline open up again. I personally would not be for expanding our jail in the future conversations. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I thought that was a good summary. I believe we did cross the line of 70 for a period of time. So we were right at the edge of our capacity, if not there. Mike?
I think we have to be clear of what the term expansion of jail is, though. You can expand the jail without expanding the number of beds, and I think those two are very different things. And I think when we've talked, at least in the past, we actually haven't talked about the expansion of beds. We've talked about things like we need more space for whatever, medical, or we need more space for program. And the two are just different. So I think you kind of have to put that out there, because gosh, if we were to add square footage to the jail, we'd have a lot of people say, well, you're expanding the jail. And it's like, well, yes, I mean, you are, but it's not for the purpose that you're alluding to. We don't want to, I don't think we want to become a board-in jail. Other counties have decided to do that, and that's their prerogative. But and kind of thankful for that, actually, that other places do that, because if we do have overage of the jail, we can always have space other places. But just want to make that clear. So thanks.
Veronica?
Some of what I was going to say was already been said. I think I'm looking at my notes from last month's discussion where I absolutely did not capture everything. But I think what I recall was both Sheriff Osborne and Captain Harrison saying something similar to what Mike just said, that the capacity issues in the jail now are coming not from a lack of beds, but from like the layout of the jail and how things are arranged. And I think, and then I personally, I would not support adding beds to our jail, but if its like physical footprint were expanded for good reasons, I would have no problem with that. I know that, I think last time, yeah, the jail numbers last month were at 63 or 64. Sometime previously, they were 78 with 15 board outs, and we talked about lots of reasons for various things. The state-ready people were a big thing. I think both our DA and assigned counsel director talked about the people who'd been arrested through the GIVE program, and how there was, what I wrote down was 8-ish people here who'd been through the jail and then on elsewhere and are not going to be part of a cycling back, most likely. But please correct me if I'm wrong. The like detox center stuff came up. I don't recall us ending that conversation with like specific, I don't know, homework to get more information from people. So I don't want to put people on the spot. But I did note that one thing, Matt, you'd brought up like at least a guess of, for all the people in jail at the time, how many were like serving a local sentence versus violent offenders versus serial offenders versus whatnot. And I think it was expressed that those like either specific or more numbers, that information would be helpful. And I had written down that Dan Cornell had some other numbers that might be useful, but I didn't keep track of what they were. But I guess one thing is, if anyone has like, and I'm looking to the staff, any more concrete information to bring into this discussion, that'd be helpful. I don't really want to just speculate over and over again here. I do have one concrete question, which y'all, both Matt and Derek, were talking about. I think the sort of the jail number fluctuating being normal. And what is my question is like, on what time scale does it make sense to look at jail number trends? Because like day by day and week by week, it sounds like it might be kind of random. On some longer time scale, there might be a meaningful pattern. On a super long time scale, maybe it's hard to predict, because like I think last year no one would have specifically predicted the state corrections officers strike, which made a big difference. So I guess what time scale of changes should we be paying attention to and are meaningful and or tried to predict, and what are just, it's just noise or unpredictable?
Yeah, do you want to try to answer? And then Lee, you wanted to go? I mean, there's certainly the seasons that
Right.
you get. The summer, there tends to be more crime.
Yeah, I think probably quarterly would be the shortest period that would have any meaningful significance as far as, you know, the fluctuation. Month to month could, you know, that could be as well, but I think a quarter is probably the shortest time that would have any significance, and that covers, you know, the winter tends to be slower, people are inside more, they're not out and about in the warm weather. But there's always a certain number, a handful, if not half a dozen people who are waiting to go to an inpatient facility, who are waiting to go door to door. If we had more access to those facilities, that would be half a dozen people, I would say, on average, who are not in our jail for as long as they tend to be normally. The parole reform has contributed to fewer parolees in jail for technical violations. There are, I think, 2 in our jail right now for that sole reason. So there's half a dozen different reasons of why people are in jail, but the strike was a huge reason why we got so high.
Yeah, okay. Lee?
You'll be surprised, I might have a different point of view on the topic. It's more contextual, and I've mentioned this before. I just continue to be challenged by how the jail statistics relate to the overall public safety crime trends in Tompkins County. And I don't know how you consider those in the same context, or at least take that into account. And it's a great goal to have low jail numbers from a financial standpoint and whatever else, but to me that's good only so long as it reflects the overall public safety in the community. And I don't mind building a capacity to accommodate being able to build public safety, whether it's a strategy or a resource, because you know, I'm trying to see where, you know, can you demonstrate to me that these lower numbers also reflect lower crime trends in Tompkins County, or a higher level of public safety? If it's just simply a means to not have a full jail, are we hurting ourselves in another manner? And I don't see that, but I'm trying to figure out, you know, do the overall safety numbers run in parallel to the lesser numbers at the jail? And if that's the case, that's a great thing, but I don't mind a bigger jail if that's what it takes to keep the streets safe.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point, and that's something we've tried to look at as we've gone along, that even with lower jail numbers, our crime rates are not different really from other upstate communities, which is, in my mind, very interesting, in that suggests that there's a lot of counties that are incarcerating a lot more people than they should be, and at, you know, social cost, but also financial cost. And
well, and it goes further in it. Maybe it's a good measure and reflects the success of the ATI programs.
I was going to mention in Dan's report, if you look at the number of people in drug court and wellness court, you know, it's not that far off the number of people in the jail. You know, and it's, I think, a testament to how hard we try to get people into appropriate programming. And it does seem to be, you know, some of it is cyclical, as our guest was saying on Privilege of the Floor, that there are a lot of people cycle in and out, but, you know, there's a lot of people that do get benefit from wellness court and drug court. Did you have your hand up, Matt?
I did, just briefly, and it's a logical question, Lee, and I think the goal is to minimize the number of people who should be in a different place. For example, treatment or an ATI as a member of the community. The people who are a threat to the community, nobody's talking about letting them out. We're talking about litigating their cases, giving them their due process, and if a sentence of incarceration is appropriate, that's what the courts will do. But, you know, somebody who's in jail for shooting someone or stabbing someone or a violent sexual offense, those aren't the people that we're talking about should be somewhere else. They are where they should be. And so, you know, the people that are getting out to go to treatment, maybe when they're back out in the community, they will steal again or do something of that nature, but they're not the individuals who are threatening public safety. And there's lots of people who commit crimes that are violent who aren't on anybody's radar or haven't done it before. But when that happens, then we have to address that, and those are people that might be incarcerated.
Yep.
Anybody else? Dan, did you have anything to say? I know you shared some numbers, and Veronica was saying you had special numbers, whatever that might mean.
There's really nothing special about the numbers. They're just the numbers. I'd provided 5 years worth of ATI-related information to everyone on this panel, I believe, or to most people on the panel. You know, numbers have been fairly steady. I think the ATI programs that we have are well utilized for the appropriate people who need those services at any given time. I know Matt's office is very good about exploring the appropriate options for how we can best serve someone in the community and also keep the community safe. So the numbers speak for themselves. I primarily provided those in regards to day reporting because I know that's of interest to folks. And with the monthly averages now, we're averaging serving about 22 clients a month in day reporting, where 2020 and 2021, we were closed for 5 months and 6 months respectively due to COVID contact restrictions, and those numbers are sort of outliers of an average of 4 people a month and 6 people a month. But once COVID kind of became less of a factor, we were averaging 14, 15 people a month in day reporting, and now we're up to mid-20s. So that was the point of the numbers that I provided, and the rest of it seems to maintain continuity over time.
Shauna.
I'll say the one program that I forgot to mention that I do think is having a lot of impact as well in the city is the LEAD program. I think that it continues to keep people involved in services out of our local jail, and it really seems to have the data to support it. I wish we could have gotten a grant or been able to roll it out with the county. So.
Okay. I think we can move on, but I found this a useful exercise to really make us have the conversation and think about different factors, because it is such a complex issue that there's so many different inputs that are leading to a single number on a daily basis. And maybe what we should be trying to do is to normalize it to the quarter, that maybe each season the Public Safety Committee gets a average number for that season, and we could compare year to year. And perhaps that would give us some sense of trend. What I would put out there is sort of a hope that for those of you who are going to be on this committee and on the legislature in the future, that when it comes time to light the fuse on doing the work on the public safety building, that you go through this exercise again, because that, there's a point in time, it is a good conversation, but I think you really need to make sure that if it's 82 will do what our community needs. And, Tompkins County has continued to grow, so I don't, just as a function of population, I don't think 82 is magical, but certainly it's symbolic. We've had people come to us and really express strong opinions about the jail should not have any more bed capacity, while perfectly willing to say it should have more program capacity. I'm not wedded to that, and I hope when you're thinking about this in the future, it doesn't have to be 82, it has to be the right number. We certainly don't want to build a gigantic jail. I compare us to Binghamton, where I think they have 500-600 beds, and they largely fill them. I don't think we ever want to do that here, but I don't want us really pushing to just keep an artificially low number. Sheriff, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rich. I don't want to belabor the issue. I agree with everything everybody says. And from my perspective, I'm not necessarily looking for more beds myself. What I am looking for is more flexibility, whether if that's caused by pods or more beds, so be it, either one. We need to have the ability to house people differently and move people around when we can. And being where we're at right now in the design of the jail, not just necessarily the beds, we need more flexibility. So I think we should focus more in that area. And another thing that hasn't been discussed is the problems we're having ongoing with our juvenile holding. I know they can't go in the regular jail, but I just don't want to lose sight of that either as these discussions go on.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, on that point, I think that in the design of a public safety building, having a separate space that is separated from the general population where you can't see or hear the other inmates, maybe that doesn't meet New York State requirements right now, but they've utterly failed in providing alternatives that are really functional. So I think that makes sense to build it in so that we don't have this situation where youth are housed in very, very odd circumstances.
Great.
Lee.
It raises a question. Is there a movement on juvenile side? Are you seeing more? Is that something to be concerned about, or just the continued concern about how to handle those that you do have?
Yeah, it's not a frequent problem, and we're not seeing it all the time, but I can tell you when we do see it, which is maybe, I don't know, 4 to 5 times a year tops, it really disrupts our operation. It takes over our entire investigative division and causes a lot of chaos. We've had employees get hurt, equipment damaged. We just got to do something better with that at some point.
Thank you.
Dan. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I agree with what's being said about needing that functionality at the jail, because it's going to be more cost effective in the long run. The only solution really is to contract for a bed that we're going to need 4 or 5 times a year, as the sheriff said, which is going to be very expensive. And if you can reconfigure a space at the sheriff's department with sight and sound separation, you're going to save money in the long run, be able to accommodate, housing a juvenile when we need to. It cuts down on the need to transport them out of the community. It gives their family more easy access to them, because even if you find a detention bed, if some miracle of the heavens happens and it's out of the county, then their family and their law guardian or their attorney can't get to them easily. So I think it makes a lot of sense to try to build that into the local jail if the sheriff's willing.
Okay.
I don't see any sea change on the state level to try to correct this on behalf of the population of the state.
Yeah, I agree with you. It seems like the problem has been so obvious for so long that if they were going to do anything, it would have risen to the surface. But here we are. So that's the only reason I would suggest that when the jail construction goes forward, that you just plan for it and make sure there is some space for juveniles, even if it's not state approved. But that's a conversation for a different day. But I do feel kind of like the torch is getting passed. To whom, I don't know, but I certainly won't be involved in those decisions, so I hope you do well with them. Anything else on this issue before we move on? All right. County Administrator's Report. Do we have anybody here from the county? Administrator. I thought I saw somebody on screen. Corsa, welcome. Well, certainly I can speak to...
Sorry, sorry, I am here.
Welcome, Corsa.
Sorry, I'm here. Yes, I apologize that I'm not there in person. I'm dealing with a few issues that came up and I don't have any additional report. I just probably will speak about the CGL program as well as the county security. I believe those 2 items on the agenda, so I don't have any additional report.
Yeah, everybody's had a chance to see that CGR is continuing to work on their report. They have not reached everybody that they wanted to reach, and they haven't received all the data that they'd really like to look at. It makes sense that if we're going to get this information, that it's done in an organized way. So it looks like we will get a full report at our September 30th meeting, but I was hoping we could have a little bit of a conversation on what impacts we think that might have on considering any changes in our budget.
So what I would like to add is CGR indicated to me they are still going through the data collection and interviewing people. In addition to the program submission will be other funding mechanism that we will need to consider. At the moment, we are finishing up with the recommended budget, which does not include funding for service expansion. So we anticipate that because of the fact that part of the programming is to provide funding options, we will be able to discuss that and make determination which option we will adopt. But we did include in the recommended budget funding for RMI service as it is right now. So that is part of our recommendation. And our hope is that the funding option that will be proposed by CGI will be evaluated, and then we can take a decision as to which direction we can go. Because of the timeline, we believe we'll be able to get a report and be able to make an adjustment at the legislature when we are reviewing the budget in October. Hopefully by then we'll have the final report and with the various recommendation and the option that we should consider.
Okay. Mike, would you like to join us? I imagine you have some opinion here.
Hello.
Welcome.
So my last conversation with CGR was right before Paul was going on vacation. So he said he would be prepared, as you noted in the letter, that to give a full report next month. But outside of that, as far as the data is concerned, we did ask him if he was expecting anything more than what we've given him. We were told no, but we're just kind of waiting for his summary.
Yeah, and I think it's a useful exercise to get that information. I'm wondering whether this is really feasible to do anything substantial in this year's budget, because one, we're facing a very tough budget year anyway. This would be a substantial change in the services the county is providing. And there is no mechanism for cost sharing that the state has really approved that would function very well between the different towns and the county. But I'd love to hear comment from other legislators or departments on whether something really is feasible in this budget cycle.
I guess that's in the back of my mind, Rich, is if the recommendations come forward contingent on changes that need to be made in state law that would permit us to go in a particular direction or toward a solution that CGS recommends, it absolutely will be impossible to put into this year's budget.
Yeah, you know, we did make a commitment to the towns, and I think it was a reasonable one to make, to undertake this study and to consider what it tells us. But we certainly did not commit that we would do funding this year. So there may be a difficult conversation to be had with the towns who seem, you know, some of the representatives coming to us were pretty insistent that this is the year to do it. I'm not sure that is actually going to happen. Yeah, but Shauna.
I agree with you, Rich, and I think, I mean, this is just such a hard budget year, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to find some savings without even doing this program. But I think the other question I have is the program that we're currently providing, is there any way that we can make changes to that to provide maybe better assistance to the localities? So for example, the Monday through Friday, the 10 through 6, are those times or those days actually helping with the burden? Would it make more sense to maybe have weekends or during the evening or something else?
So the hours that we're currently covering really seem to be the hours that they need the most help. But we are starting to notice that Tuesdays, interestingly enough, Tuesdays actually happens to be the day that there seems to be the most calls. But we are noticing that some of the local rescues are struggling with weekends as well. I think what we can do, what I think we can do, because I do understand and our team understands that it's going to be a difficult budget year, is that maybe what they provide us, we have an opportunity then as a community to really sort of dissect and then see what's really best for us, and if we need to use next year as the building year based on some of that guidance. Because again, I don't really know what to expect. What I do know is this, the local rescues are struggling. And I do know that some of the extended wait times for transport agencies, our program is helping with that. I think it would be nice if at least our current model could maybe even just add an ALS unit where a paramedic unit, because we've noticed that there's been instances where that would have been nice, but that would be nominal versus trying to do something much larger with transport agencies. But we certainly have a capacity with the number of ambulances that we have in the county and really meeting that need. So what CGR will come back with as far as recommendations will be, obviously it's going to be interesting to see, but at the end of the day, we have a capacity issue with the number of ambulances that we have, and we certainly still need to do whatever we can to shorten the amount of time that people have to wait for somebody to show up, right? When they call 911. And that's really what the RMR program was originally designed to address. When somebody calls 911, how long will it take a first responder to actually arrive? And I think that the data shows that the RMR program has been quite effective in that area. So I think either way, I'm optimistic. I think if nothing else, we'll have a roadmap that we can then decide. Maybe we could take pieces of what they suggest, maybe pieces of what we suggested. Because even in the original proposal that we were asked to put together by TCOG, if you look at that, it wasn't just about transport ambulances, it was also increasing the rapid medical response piece and even adding some ALS units. So maybe we don't do the full thing, the full recommendation, but pieces of that, so.
Okay, I have a question, but I want to hear Corsa first. Corsa.
Thank you. I do not want to preempt what CGI will propose, but just a bit of a highlight is some of the low-hanging fruits in terms of funding are not available anymore. For example, the ARPA funding. So it is essential that whichever direction we decide to move into, we identify a steady funding resources or revenue that can support the sustainability of any program that we adopt, be it adopting a CGI proposal or even expanding the services being provided by RMR. As I indicated in the budget overview, there's a significant gap that we've been trying to do some adjustments, some cuts to be able to come to a reasonable number, which we are hopeful that the legislature will be able to rally behind. But that being said, any new programming, we need to identify how we are going to pay for it, not just in 2026 or 2027, but sustained for a long stretch of time. So my hope is that they will provide us clear path to identify funding to support any program that we adopt. And we do not need the state to give us permission, a specific thing that we can do. There are certain things that we can do locally to either bring in a new service or expanded service, but it is essential that we identify a specific set of funding resources to go into the program to make it sustainable. And I'm hoping that whatever mechanism, whatever options that are laid before us, we will pay particular attention to how that funding mechanism is designed, and also the community, be TCOG, rally behind supporting the county to be able to implement those funding mechanisms and funding adjustment. It may be new taxes, new fees, or realigning some of our existing revenue sources into something else. So it is essential that we understand in the community that we do not have an excess funding somewhere that we can just tap into it. We are not anticipating adding to our fund balance in 2025. So there's no low-hanging fruit in terms of revenue sources to support expanded services. So we have to be conscious of that fact and then evaluate the options critically and make an informed decision so that we invest in programs that can be sustained, but not because no matter what the case may be, if we expand the services and we are even able to charge insurance claims, we're only able to generate 1/3 of the funding from insurance. majority of the funding, the 2 tests will be local. So we need to make sure we are ring-fencing specific set of funding resources to go into supporting EMS services as we move forward.
Oh, those are good points. Let's see, Mike, my question was, if we did want to consider something where we went from basic EMT services to advanced life support, would we need New York State approval for that? And would it change the essential nature of what we're doing with rapid medical response?
So the first part of your question is yes, we would have to get a certificate of need, which I think we should pursue anyway. One of the reasons, although really when it helps significantly, we would be able to generate some revenue because we now have a mechanism to bill for the level of service that we're offering now, which we're not able to do without a certificate of need. And then, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question, sir?
Would it change the essential nature of the RMR program?
I think it would only enhance it, frankly. We have several paramedics that work for us that are operating at the EMT level. There's been several instances where it would have been nice if they were able to perform at the ALS level. What it would mean is when we dispatch them, we'd have a little bit of a heightened level of awareness as to the type of call the units were going on. So it wouldn't just be about where they're geographically based, it would also be the type of call. So although I would never want to abandon the concept of having EMTs also doing this job, for those people that are paramedics, we could allow them to step up their game and properly equip them to handle a call that required paramedic level.
How complicated would that be to prepare an application for the certificate of need?
It's actually already done, and it's already been signed off our medical director. We would just need approval from this body, and we would be ready to submit it. So in anticipation of us needing to move forward, we've already pretty much have done that. We would just need permission from the legislature in order to submit the application.
Is there a reason you've been waiting, or just?
No, well, we were going to bring it before the legislature, but then when all the discussion began about having CGR, we figured we would wait, but we did mention that to them. So in our interview with them, we did mention that we were interested in obtaining a CON and even considering converting at least one of our units to an ALS unit. But I see that, or a paramedic unit. I see that Joe is raising his hand.
Go ahead, Joe.
Help us.
Yeah, just I guess further answered Richard's question. When we applied for the CON, there's 2 different applications. There's one for a flight car system, which is similar to what the RMR program is, and there's one for transport ambulances. So depending on what CGR comes back with, and then what the legislator decides to move forward with as far as the expansion, if there's an expansion of the RMR program, that's part of the reason why we've waited. I do have both of those applications ready to go. We just need to decide which one we would use and submit it.
So we're just trying to be proactive and be prepared, and then once we get that report, then and an opportunity for us to look at it and see what the recommendations are, because it's really hard to know. They haven't really given us much insight on what the recommendations are.
No, that's great to know you're ready. And to Corsa's point, it was really wonderful that we got these grants, but grants have a double-edged nature to them in that it allowed us to proceed with the RMR program without having the really hard conversations with the stakeholders about how this would be funded in the long term. And we haven't really proceeded at all on that conversation. One thing I would say is that we have a really compelling data set right now as to which communities have really benefited from the RMR program and the extent. You can look statistically, like Lansing has received a lot of assistance from RMR, and that's great. That's what it was intended to do. And as some of the other outlying towns have benefited as well, and we can quantify that. So I think there is a basis to have further conversation, whether it's on a voluntary funding scheme or something else, if New York State would allow it. There's a way to do this, and it is a positive community benefit. We should figure out how to get there. Yeah, Shauna.
At one point, we had talked about actually having the vehicle to do the ALS unit and then upfitting it. Is that still a conversation?
Yes, okay. And that's exactly what I mean. So we have the 3 units, and again, not knowing exactly what CGR recommends, but Joe and I have had quite a bit of conversation of maybe of the 3 that we have, maybe transitioning one to an ALS unit. And that would just mean buying the necessary equipment, such as cardiac monitors, making sure we have a pharmaceutical program. So it's really not going to be a heavy lift, but we were sort of prepared as part of that original proposal we put together that included transport ambulances to do that anyway. And then we made a decision to have CGR join the conversation. So we just kind of paused and we figured, rather than coming back and adding more vision, we would just wait to see what they had to say.
Yeah. And I will say that during my ride along, I think I went with Dan.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And Dan was a paramedic, had been one for so many years, was just so competent. And we arrived to the scene first, and there was only so far that he could go in this role. And I think it was kind of frustrating for me to see, because this person really needed more advanced. And so we had to wait for Bangs to actually perform. And he was actually instructing the new guys at Bangs on what they were doing. And I thought it was, just cool to see how they were working together. But it would have been great had he been able to render those services 5 minutes before Bangs arrived.
And I'm really pleased to say that there's a lot of synergy with the folks in the field working together between the RMR units and the transport agency. So I'm very pleased about that. And actually, Dan had a call recently where a person was experiencing anaphylactic shock. And as an EMT, he's only able to administer epinephrine. He wasn't able to do the 4-course of, the full cocktail he would give as a paramedic. And there was an extended response time by the transport agency. So he was getting, he told me just on Friday, he was concerned because if he had those extra resources, he could have immediately started an IV, give him prednisone on top of the epinephrine that he was giving him, and that's what he was limited to. And he had asked me, do you think there's any possibility this could expand? I said, well, we're going to have to see what CGR says. But so you experienced it while you were with him, and he just experienced this again last week. So I think there's opportunity, and I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about what we've been able to do and how the community is reacting to it. And something you had said about, a particular community benefiting it, and I would say 100% because there's a lot of volume in that area, but there's also people that are benefiting from it because of where we strategically place these units, where there would be extended response times because we're offering the service in areas where there isn't really rescue services going.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see the number of responses in different communities, but also we could look at the difference in response time, which is pretty impressive. So, yeah. Okay, so certainly more discussion to come there, and I look forward to seeing the CGR report.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this? No. Okay. Corsa, we also have a report discussion, 2026 Community Justice Center recommendations.
Okay, thank you. So we put together a recommendation analysis of the situation. So I've been studying what has been the thought process since the program was set up a couple of years ago. So included in the 2026 budget is for us to continue. We are recommending in the 2026 budget to continue supporting the CJC, but with a shift in its operational ability. So at the moment, CJC is under county administration. So the proposal we've submitted is requesting a shift in that approach, whereby the CJC will be under the city, and then we will sustain them, pay half of the costs, just as the city has been doing for the last, I believe, 2 or 3 years, to continue the program, and then for all of you to be able to evaluate and make determination at what point the county will weave itself out of support to the agency. But the city, as far as I know, are preparing to incorporate the CJC position into their overall administration structure. And for transitional reasons, that's why we will be recommending a support in 2026.
Okay. Questions, comments? I guess more to come in the budget season on that one. Yeah, Mona Lita.
Yes.
Go ahead, Corsa.
No, yes. Mona Lisa can chime in.
Welcome, Mona Lita. You're on mute.
Oh, hello, how are you?
Yeah, great.
Good. Yeah, this is something that we've been talking about a bit between the city and the county partners that the CJC has the most contact with. And I've been a part of the development of switching over to the city. The majority of, some of the work that we're working on and some of the things that Dom and I have been working on together for city CJC partnership kind of leads towards what we're looking at doing. So, yeah. I'm on board. I'm aware of what's going on and what the options are. And I think it'll be pretty beneficial for the CJC, but still being able to continue some of the work that I'm doing in the county also.
Okay. Shauna.
Hi, Monalina. Would you continue to do the rural outreach as part of your position?
Yeah. I'm actually in ground right now. Okay. I think that is something that Dom and I have definitely spoken about. When I say Dom, Dominic Recchio, in being able to keep at least the more fruitful hubs. We have some that have quieted down quite a bit in the rural areas, but definitely keeping the ones that are, engaging the community members and really providing those services.
That's great. I'm happy to hear about that. I ran into someone who was talking about your services and having conversations with you, and you were very helpful. So I'm glad to hear that those are staying. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything further on that? Corsa, anything else from county administration?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep going. Our sheriff is with us. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks, Rich. You have my printed report hopefully in front of you. I just went through a few things I wanted to point out, which, interesting. I couldn't help but notice, our road patrol and our deputies, and actually all our employees at the sheriff's office, how diverse and multifaceted the work they do is. Was going to start off with July being a very busy month for us, which is typical. 10 felony arrests, 10 DWIs, 2 felony DWIs. And then I was going to go on to grassroots, which we wrapped up for, I think, the 3rd year of handling it from the law enforcement perspective on our own without the help of the state police. Got through the whole 3 days without a single arrest, which I think speaks volumes to the people that attend the festival and the organization that goes into it, and the work our deputies do, and all first responders that help out with grassroots. So I just think that's amazing that many thousands of people can come into our community and take part in an event like that and not have a single arrest that needs to be made. The Qantas Award was given last month to Sergeant Ninavaji and Deputy Gambas for performing CPR and life-saving measures on a newborn infant. It didn't go the way we would have liked it to, but again, it shows their compassion and the effort they put in. There's also plenty of other kudos to our deputies in the report that you can read at your pleasure. We also had 6 campers that got to go to camp for free at the New York State Sheriff's Camp. That's a program that we assist with every year. People that are disadvantaged, maybe can't afford to take advantage of a camp, get to go. So yeah, like I said, very diverse mix of things we do. Lastly, we know it's time for testing for new deputies and COs. We had 51 sign up to take our deputy sheriff list. The CO list is only 11, which is unfortunate, but for the deputy sheriff list at least, it's starting to creep back up a little bit, so that's promising as well. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Yeah, I did want to give a shout out to Officer McMahon. That's a long career with the Sheriff's Department, and well-deserved retirement. So
yeah, that's a long time to work in corrections, and yeah, definitely kudos to her. We did have another one retire last week, not with, I think, just as many years as Officer McMahon had. So
yeah, and I appreciated the letter regarding Deputy Gumbus responding to a difficult situation. Sounds like did it very professionally.
Yeah, thank you.
You have a resolution, which is the authorization to accept the gun-involved violence elimination GIVE grant 2025-2026 Sheriff's Office, ID 13450. Could I get a motion? Lee moves, Mike seconds. Do you want to speak to that, Derek?
I don't think so. We've been getting this grant every year for the last few years. Obviously, a good portion of it goes for patrols where we've been partnering with IPD as of late, $25,000. The department equipment is for the flock safety equipment. So yeah.
Okay. It sounds like there'll be more conversation regarding the flock system, and nationally that issue seems to be getting some real attention. I know I was approached from a reporter I need to respond to on this, but I certainly would love to see a memorandum of understanding among the various police agencies in our community to make sure that we are approaching it in a consistent way across all the police agencies. Because it's a powerful tool, but it certainly is one that can be misused. Shauna.
I think it would be great if we could have a presentation by their representatives here so that we could ask them questions and perhaps hold them accountable on record, either here in this committee or at the full legislature.
I think it's a great idea if they're willing to come. We can certainly make the request. Yeah. Mike.
I can make that request. I'm sure they would be willing to come.
Okay. Mike.
I don't want to blindside Derek, but when we first approved it, first off, I would say that I wouldn't use the phrasing hold them accountable. They haven't done anything yet. So I would just say, what are the safeguards? And that's kind of my question to Derek is, when we first approved this, we did ask you a lot of questions about what are the safeguards. And so like, how do we prevent a deputy, for example, misusing the information that they get on a personal nature, for example, or other guardrails? I was pretty satisfied with your answers. I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on some of those safeguards or not, just because we are getting questions on it, so.
Yeah, no, and I've been getting questions too, and I think everybody knows I'm always happy to have the conversation about anything anybody's concerned about. You know, I have met with Flock multiple times. A lot of the stuff I'm hearing that people are picking up on, of course, they claim none of it's true. I do know for a fact they would be more than willing to come down and meet. They met with us about 3 weeks ago. Nothing to do with, it was more of a sales presentation, if anything, but yeah, I'm open to the conversation. We've been transparent. We have our policy online for anybody to review. I've offered to take suggestions on that and make any modifications. We've limited the access to only New York State agencies, which really limits our ability to use it, but trying to compromise and make people feel a little bit more comfortable with that. I had concerns too from out-of-state law enforcement agencies accessing our devices and using them for things that we don't want them using it for. I hope that answers your question. We have procedures in place where people have to enter a case number to run a report, and it's got to match our criteria based on our policy.
Thanks, Derek.
And the policy's posted on your website, correct?
Yes, and it's also attached to our Block portal that we added to our Transparency Hub.
Okay. All right. All right. Veronica.
Derek, can you specify what the money that this year's gift grant is going to regarding the cameras? Like, is it software, service, purchasing? What?
Yeah, it's all of the above, Veronica. It's for the $195,650 that you see in the resolution is all committed towards flock safety. It's software. It's an annual fee for the equipment, the software, the maintenance, all that good stuff, installation. It seems like it sticks around that just about every year, that same amount. We have a contract with them annually, and yeah.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? That's unanimous. All right. Thank you, Derek. Anything further from the Sheriff's Department? No? Okay. Matt, District Attorney, welcome.
Thanks, Rich. I think people know that we received the Victim Advocate grant that we had applied for. That's in our budget because while most of that salary and expenses will be covered by the grant. There are some fringes that will need to be covered by the county. That's in the budget for this year. But we're very excited to include that person into our office, and it will really expand our ability to liaison with victims, help support them, coordinate with them for testimony, keep them apprised of what's going on in their case. So it'll be a huge asset for our office that we're really looking forward to adding. And so our plan is to have that person hired and on board for January 1st, assuming that it's approved.
All right. Well, that's great. You got the grant. So, yeah, I would anticipate it would be approved. Yeah. Questions or comments for our district attorney?
How's the full staffing working out?
We are starting to feel it. It's still, we have two brand new attorneys who are, we've never had two brand new attorneys before when I've been DA. So that's a process of training them and supervising them that takes some time. They are, we've kicked them out of the nest at this point, and they're flying, but they're still, we need to watch them, help them, support them closely. But overall, it's great.
Good to hear. Thanks, man.
Okay, Shauna.
I just want to thank Matthew for going after that, going after the grant. I want to say earlier in the year, perhaps, we had a request from one of our speakers to have that position, and I had called Matt on the phone and said, hey, what do you think? And he's like, I'm already on it. We've already applied for the grant. So it's good to know that we're both listening to our constituents. It was really an important need in our community, and I'm really happy to see that we got the funding for it. So thank you.
Thanks, Shauna. Honestly, I'm not sure where they're going to live, because we already have 5 people, I think, working in the hallway in my office, but we'll figure it out.
Get a bigger hallway. Anyway, okay, thank you, Matt. Next up is Department of Emergency Response. Welcome again, Michael.
Hello. So there was something I actually wanted to bring up that's not in our Tom stat, because timing is everything. And when we received word of this, it was beyond our deadline. But Patrick Harris, who's been with our department going on 8 years, has been selected as the APCO region dispatcher of the year. And that includes 8 states. So it's all the New England states and New York and New Jersey. So we're really excited about him. Pat's the 3rd recipient of this award in 4 years. And in next month's Tom stat, we're going to have a little bit of a write-up. So he'll be going down to receive his award, or to Connecticut to receive his award in October. So.
Oh, that's great news. Okay. All right. Questions or comments on the report? I did have a couple questions. I noticed on page 39, where you list the calls against the averages, it looks like we're way up on property checks. And it seems like property checks went way up in the pandemic, but they've sort of stayed high. And is there something different in the way law enforcement is responding, or the calls you're getting?
I wish I could answer that. I really don't know, to be frank. I mean, a lot of those are directly entered in by the police officers anyway. So there could be something happening within one particular jurisdiction where they're just doing more of them, and it's showing an increase in numbers for something that might be happening that we're not aware of.
Okay. And then I noticed traffic stops, similarly, were much higher, above the average. And it occurred to me that these aren't 911 calls. These are the officers reporting in, I'm doing a stop. So it sounds like there's been some movement there that officers are making more stops than they have in the past. Jen, I see your hand up.
Just educated guesses. One thing that changed that I think might correlate with the increase in property checks being documented is part of the EROC committee, we voted to allow certain nature codes to be self-generated by officers so that they don't have to call it out and dispatch create that nature or that call in Spillman. So, and property checks is one of them. So that allows them to simply click a button within their the records management system to create that property check call, so that more property checks aren't being conducted. They're probably be properly documented. Where an officer might have gotten out of the car to check a property before and not wanted to tie up the radio and may not have called it out when they probably should have. This allows them to easily document it. So I'm assuming that might have some correlation with why you're seeing more property checks being documented. And then as far as the traffic stops, I think staffing in general between all the agencies in Tompkins County has gotten a little bit better over the last few years, so that it will equate to some increase, as well as grant funding. I know we're getting more money through the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee, as well as Stop DWI, to put additional patrols out there during high visibility engagement campaign dates, as well as other targeted events. So I think both of those, as well as I think there's it's multifaceted of why you're seeing traffic stops increase.
Okay, that's useful information. Thank you. Okay.
Rich.
Lee.
Remind me, are the troopers included in these numbers?
Yes. So, I mean, they could have, I think the undersheriff's explanation was spot on. I mean, there could have even been a detail that I'm not aware of that they could have done too that could have increased the numbers.
Okay. I also noted on page 43 the list of all the emergency medical service education going on. It's really good to see that, and I wanted to call that out.
Thank you.
Particularly that TC3 and BOCES and Syracuse, Guthrie, all the different players that are, I'm not reading them all, but are recognizing the need and pushing on this is I think, very good news.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Joe's been an incredible ambassador to try to bring a lot of this into the county. He works very closely with all those agencies, and we're really excited about the future with regards to EMS education in the county.
Well, we need more EMTs.
Yes.
Here we go. Yeah. Okay. You have a couple of resolutions, unless anybody else had any questions or comments on the report. All right. I would raise authorization to accept fiscal year 2022 Technical Rescue and Urban Search and Rescue Grant, Department of Emergency Response, ID 13503. Can I get a motion on that? Shauna moves, Mike seconds. I do have a question, 2022?
Jess is Jess, I just want to point out, we manage a lot of grants, but we also manage a lot of grants for other agencies, and this is one of those examples, but Jess really helped shepherd this through the process, so this is really going to go to IFT, so I'll let Jess jump in, but they've applied in the past.
We've done this before.
We have, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jess.
Yeah, Jessica?
I think you're on mute, Jess. Oh, no.
Is your volume down?
So I'll jump in. So we have applied for this particular grant over the last couple of years.
Is that better?
Much better. Go ahead. Yep. Just in the nick of time.
So when I'm on this, I got a new computer, and when I'm on this microphone, I cannot hear you. So I have to switch back and forth between my microphone and my speaker. So let me just finish this and I'll switch back to my speaker so I can hear you. It's fiscal year 2022 because that's the state funding mechanism that it's coming out of, and I believe it's out of the state's portion of Homeland Security grant program. This will be sort of it's kind of a pass-through grant. It will be going to IFD for their technical rescue, using it for equipment and to bring in some training and use it for overtime and backfill. And how that will work is we will purchase the equipment using these grant funds for them. It will be asset tagged by the county and assigned to IFD. And then they will submit us their training requirements and costs, and then we will reimburse them using these funds.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in. So IFD really does the majority of the technical rescue in Tompkins County. I mean, other fire departments have amazing programs, like Trumansburg has an amazing rope rescue program, but technical rescue, you're really talking about confined space rescue when somebody is like maybe in a manhole, something just to simplify it, trench rescue, water rescue, rope rescue. So this is beyond just your bread and butter vehicle extrication. It requires a high level of technical skill, but only a few departments do all of it. In fact, really the only one that does all of it is IFD. And some departments are specializing, like Trumansburg, again, amazing rope rescue programs. So I just wasn't sure if the folks on this committee were aware that IFD is offering that service across the county on top of the hazardous material response as well. So it's really going to a good recipient and an agency that continues to offer that regardless if they get the grants or not.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of the hazardous materials grant that came through a little while ago.
Yes.
This is great.
Yes.
This is intermunicipal
Similar, and I will
cooperation.
note that this will actually help IFD become a type 1 confined space rescue team, meaning that they are at the highest level of their confined space rescue and can be called upon the state as a regional team to respond to confined space calls.
Great. Shauna.
I'll just say I did the ride along that I did, trying to think, I think it was the same night that I went with Bangs. All this, I mean, it's like the world blew up around us. And it was, I think, a fire department in Cuga Heights. There was a guy that was in the ravine at the gorges. And I mean, just to see everyone operate, they took a cage down there, and it was like pretty far down. They had to go through neighbors' yards and have the ropes around all these trees, and just like to see people work together. I mean, it's truly like there's a physics and an engineering behind it that my brain could not for a second understand. But they had that gentleman out of the gorge probably within 45 minutes and had him breathing again. And it was just like amazing to see everyone work together. And so if there are any tools that we can provide them, and certainly it's even better whenever the state pays for it. But I love getting money like this to help them do their really hard job.
Yeah. Okay. Further questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And then you have another resolution that was on our desks. This is contingent fund appropriation, Department of Emergency Response, Public Safety Enhancements, Doc ID 13499. And could I get a motion to put that on the floor? Veronica moves, Shauna seconds. Do you want to speak to this, Mike?
So this was something we were asked to put together by county administration to help address some what we were considered immediate needs for security or public safety coverage in some of our buildings, including having staff for the legislature meetings and also for committee meetings. So what we did was the original model that we presented last year to county leadership, of which really was we were only approved to provide services to 32 Green Street, which is Office of Mental Health. This would also include having coverage, public safety coverage or security coverage at Brown Road as well in their whole health building, primarily because they do clinical visits there twice a week in the evening hours. So what Jamie and I did was we looked at all the asks and we tried to figure out the best way we could do this with the least number of personnel, where we could have folks that could be in those buildings when they have their evening clinical hours, but then also be able to make sure we had a presence for the legislature meetings and also have a presence for the committee meetings during the week. So all I think we're doing is really just accelerating that ask to include it in this year's, I guess, the remainder of this year's budget, as opposed to just trying to build it out in next year's budget. But I don't know if Corsa wants to jump in.
Go ahead, Corsa.
Yes. So Mike hit the point right on with everything that we did. I just wanted to add in that after Mike put the program together, that was shared with the sheriff's office, and they also provided the next level protection that can be provided through the sheriff's office. So this is the first step, as was discussed with all of you a couple of weeks ago, as what you want to see. And we already have the mechanisms in place. So at some point when we decided to increase the numbers or expand the services to include even armed officers. We already have the structure in place that we can build upon. So this will be the second step after first year, your approval of a staff and a half. So this will be a second step to add 4.5 staff to augment the services and be able to provide coverage in the commons and also, other county districts around the DeWitt Park area and also other county buildings. In addition to that, we've already factored the cost in the 2026 budget proposals that we are working on as well.
Shauna, then Mike.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to our sheriff, to Mike Stitley, and to Jamie Arnold, because I feel like there's a national trend of people being frustrated with government and with people struggling with mental health issues. I know that locally on the county, we've seen an increase in, I guess what I'll call threats. And so I think it's important for people that are at this table, as well as for our staff, to feel safe whenever they come to work. And that hasn't always happened. And so I hope that by allowing for this funding, we can provide a sense of security for our employees. And, you know, I think that if someone is going to come in here and harm any of us, whether it be us or our employees, this will hopefully be a deterrent. But it's something that we should do, that I know other communities and other municipalities have taken steps before us, and we've tried to put it off a little bit. But I hope that we do move forward with this, because I am afraid that if we don't, something tragic could happen to us.
Yeah, Mike.
Well, just
I just wanted to add quickly to what Shauna said, and said this is not just for us and our staff and the legislatures, for the members of the public as well. That comes to conduct business and conduct seek services. They need to feel safe, they need to feel protected, and they need to feel guided. And I think the sense of security, they see people around the county seat area is very helpful and gives some degree of assurance as well. So it is for the community as a whole, and providing that intervention and that support in the district.
Okay, Mike.
Well, I'm going to say something, and then I have a couple questions too. I don't want people thinking that government is any more or less safe than any other workplace, to be honest. I mean, I do a lot of workplace training because I have a lot of jobs, and you know, some of the workplace violence that we've seen recently has nothing to do with government. One of them was the NFL, for goodness sakes. I mean, people have grievances. So while I understand that people may be nervous going to work, I don't think this is you still need to be on guard even if there is security, wherever you are. I mean, situational awareness is pretty important. This is bigger than I had anticipated, and perhaps I should have said that earlier, I don't know, but I see this resolution, and I saw the resolution last time. Where are these? So here's my list of questions. We're talking about 7 full-time people. I mean, it's basically still a 9-to-5 job. I mean, we're basically a 9-to-5 operation in the county. I mean, add some to the end, add some to the beginning, but that's kind of where we are. Are we going to have a security person at every building that we have? I mean, I heard Brown Road, I heard the mental health. I mean, are we going to have one here at Chambers, like all the time? Are we going to have one over there at administration, which is kind of cleaned out now as IT? I mean, we already have security at the clerk's office. We already have it at DSS. Obviously, the clerk's office isn't going to fall under this, but is DSS now going to be brought under this umbrella? So those are some of my questions. I haven't really seen a written plan of where all these folks are going to be. And maybe I missed that. Maybe it's out there. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, so I did provide a staffing plan to leadership as to where we would put the staff. So although we're 9 to 5, I would agree with you that when it comes to the Brown Road, Whole Health at Brown Road and Whole Health at Green Street, there are evening hours there that go beyond 7:30. So originally, when we did our original staffing model last year, was for one full-timer, one part-timer at both Brown Road and at Green Street. And frankly, that was a little thin. That was thin. But I was asked to keep it as tight as I possibly could. And then we received approval for one full-timer, one part-timer for Green Street. We have been unable to fill that part-time position. So part of the vision here is to have the folks that would be assigned in the evening hours at both Brown Road and at Green Street when they're not there. And this hasn't been completely decided, but we are working with Whole Health leadership to see if they would be willing to adjust their clinical hours in the evening so that we can then use the staff that would be there in the evening during the hours that they need evening coverage to then cover the legislature meetings. So pretty much at that point, we would have staff working evening hours every day of the week.
So assessment, we're moving them up in the Dutch Mill. It just seems like we're doing things with staff that like this building, we could easily lock down. So are we going to have a staff here all the time? Mental health, I always thought that building was locked down. So if I'm hearing that it's not, I find that to be odd.
So it's not, anybody can pretty much go into mental health door. It's not like DSS, there's nobody doing screening. So part of this is also screening. So for example, when there's either a legislature meeting or a committee meeting, we would have somebody screening at the door. And part of that resolution included the magnetometer for downstairs and wands. So that would be part of the process. So it's not just whether or not the buildings are locked. Like this building, as I understand, is locked when it's not open for business. But then when it's open for business, when it's not open for a committee meeting, and then when we had a committee meeting or a full legislature meeting, we would have people at the front to do the screening. And ideally, you really need to have 2 people to do effective screening. And there's a number of reasons for that. That's why if you've been in, I'm not sure if you've been at DSS, they have several people that are doing screening there during the day that would actually exceed the number that we would be looking to do the screening downstairs for the committee meetings and the legislature meetings. It would require moving staff around, so it would be dynamic as opposed to just having people we would have certain people that would be really a full-time in the building, but the people that would be working the evening hours, those positions would be moved around in order to help cover all of our needs.
Lee?
Maybe you know the answer to this, Rich. Are we still funding an over-target request at the library for security services? Is that carried forward?
I don't know. I guess I should know, but I have not heard that, certainly as liaison to the library. But I can try to find out.
And is DS, Maury's got a hand up, maybe? Oh, DSS, that remains a separate unit.
Yes, but there has been discussion with myself and county leadership about centralizing all the security services, and I think there's been a change in staff over there. So we've had some recent discussions to talk about accelerating that as well. So I don't want to misspeak or overstep, but I think it's a fair point. Mike brought it up, and you're bringing it up, but that we're having these discussions, and they do have a spot outside of the contract. So we have contracts with AMRIC that supply armed officers there. There are 4 DSS security officers that are county employees. And so there's been a lot of discussion about centralizing that under this program.
Well, I know I would assume, and maybe assume's not a good thing to do, but DSS is more than likely getting significant reimbursements for that added part in their facility. But I advocated this at the time of the library discussion 2 or 3 budgets ago, that the comprehensive look was probably where we needed to go. And I think it also was done in the context of some other security details that the county was sponsoring, and we've got these pockets around, and hopefully they come together here somehow.
Yeah, there is a security person when you walk in the library, but I don't know what the funding mechanism is.
I'm just wondering if, rather than us continuing to fund an over target through the library budget to provide for that, would the money be better spent to bolster what the county is looking at?
With rotation, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have your hand up, and then Shauna?
I'll let Shauna go first because she hasn't said anything.
So, I mean, I think I've been in office for 8 years. Mike, you've been in office longer than myself. And even over the course of me being in office, we've seen an increase in concerning emails, probably 20-fold, even from last year. And so I definitely feel like things are percolating a little bit. While I've never quoted Fox News here in this legislature, I'm going to do it today because they just wrote an article this morning that says political violence surges across America as lawmakers face growing threats at home. And this was written this morning at 8 a.m. Political violence is surging in America, and it's hitting lawmakers on both sides of the aisles. From mayors and state legislators to 535 members of Congress, public officials are increasingly finding themselves and their families in the crosshairs. In 2024 alone, U.S. Capitol Police investigated more than 9,000 threats against lawmakers, marking more than 18% increase from a year prior, and part of a trend of growing threats against public officials. So I mean, there is certainly data to support the fact that governments are being targeted.
If I could, Mike had another question that I didn't answer, and it's not to have an officer in every building, just so you know. So right now we'd be looking to have Brown Street covered, Green Street covered, and having staff here during meetings and during the full-fledged meetings and committee meetings.
Okay.
Mike, did you have something else?
Couple things.
Yeah, Maury, I'll get you.
So I'm going to vote for this because I'd like to hear this discussion on the full floor of the legislature, and hopefully it won't make it onto a consent agenda, even if it passes. That would be great. Thank you, Taylor. The trouble I'm wrestling with here is if this passes and we put it in place, we will have more security on any given day for the county than we do sheriff's deputies on the street. I mean, that's hard to reconcile for me. And for buildings that don't move, like, it would just seem to me that there is a way to secure a building, like I secure my house, that would give our people optimum, a feeling that they are secure. And I listen, I get it. It's a dangerous world and we're getting a lot of threats, but I do also have that trouble that there are limited resources and we want to protect people. And this is a lot of people to add to just kind of protect, not just, but to protect the county when, yes, there's a lot of threats in the world and we have X amount of deputies, and this would put more security for the county than we do with deputies. So anyway, I'll keep thinking about it, and I would love to see that plan that was presented to leadership. So, because I don't think I've seen that yet. If somebody else has, then maybe I just missed that email, but I don't think I've seen that.
Okay, Maury.
Yeah. First, a question. I didn't quite understand what you were saying about the mental health building, because each time I'm there, the place is locked down like a drum. If I have a meeting with Corsa, I can't get past the front door without encountering a security presence. Then I am walked up the stairs by a uniformed guard who then goes inside, announces that I'm there, and then somebody comes and opens the door. So how does that building need additional security? And also, secondarily to that, I didn't hear anything about the old jailhouse in the list of places where security would be placed, and that is very concerning.
Sure. So let me work backwards. So we were asked to provide a staffing model by leadership for certain buildings, so that's what we did. If leadership wanted us to add the old jail, I would certainly enhance that staffing model to accommodate that.
When we talk about leadership, are you talking about administration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then as far as Green Street is concerned, when you arrive, you're able to get through those first 2 doors. Those doors are not locked, so you're actually able to get into the lobby. Yes, there is a door that goes from the lobby to the elevator, and we have a certain protocol now that HR and administration is in that building, because the 5th floor is locked out. So the reason why you have to be escorted up is because the key, in order to access the 5th floor, there's a key fob reader in the elevator that doesn't allow anybody other than the folks on the 5th floor to access that floor. So you have to be escorted up in order for the 5th floor button to be activated from the lobby, or any floor for that matter. So that's why, and that process was just put into place. So the front doors of the building are open during the day; they're not locked, so that anybody can walk in, and then depending on what your business there is in the building, that dictates what kind of services you get, whether it's from us or the mental health team.
But you can't get out of the lobby. Once you get through those 2 doors into the lobby, you're trapped in the lobby. There's no place to go. I think the reception area is behind reinforced glass. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Basically,
these are fair questions. So the glass isn't reinforced. It's plexiglass. It's not security glass. The other thing is, I think sometimes people think that it's just about access control, but I can tell you that since we've had a presence at mental health, we work daily with them based on certain clients. So for example, yesterday, there was a client that came in, high risk, very volatile, and 24 hours before that client arrived, our security team worked with the mental health leadership team and the clinician that was going to be working with that client to come up with a security and safety plan. So when they were working with that client, our public safety team was nearby. Now, since we've started this, which has only been a couple months now, there's been more than a dozen instances where our public safety team has been present, either immediately in the space when they're working with these high-risk clients, or nearby, depending on, again, on the individual plan that we put together for that specific client. So yes, you're right, you're in that lobby, but there's also another space that's off to the back called the pyramid room. That space is not locked, so if you get into the lobby, you can go into that space, but you're right, you can't get beyond those double doors that bring you into the secondary lobby that allows you access to the elevators.
Okay, Lee, did you have something?
Just to the resolution itself, for anybody that's watching us, it's contingency funding through the end of 2025 in the amount of $138,000. And we will be seeing a $610,000 over target request in the budget proposals for 2026, which takes us back to where we were discussing earlier, the struggle that we're going to have in formulating this budget this year. But 600,000
is a lot of money.
Ongoing amount is well over 1% increase in the tax levy.
Yeah, I guess I'll take a turn. I worry about that, Lee, especially because it's money that doesn't do anything. It doesn't provide a service. It does something. It does something pretty important, but it doesn't provide services to constituents, other than when they attend a meeting, perhaps. But it doesn't feed anybody. It doesn't provide medical care. And I'm reminded, I was really fortunate when I was in college after my sophomore year. I got an appointment as an intern for our congressman of the time, Matt McHugh, and I went down to Washington and spent the summer there. It was great. But one of my jobs was to deliver stuff. You'd run the errands, and I went all over the Capitol. You could go anywhere. You could walk into any building. You could walk up into the gallery. I'd go and watch the Congress, the floor. And the change in our country, since then, I find it incredibly sad. And I also worry that we're chasing an elusive goal here, that as we try to find where the vulnerabilities are and plug security holes, there's always another one. There's always another place where you're going to say, well, now here, now there. I don't know that this is getting us where we need to go. Unfortunately, it seems like our society has just fundamentally changed since when I was an intern, and that the acceptability of atrocious behavior is now, allowed, and particularly by a lot of political leaders, where we should know better, and we don't. I don't know. Certainly, I think we need to have the debate at the full legislature, but I don't know if I'm going to vote for this or not. It's so much money for something that I don't know whether it fundamentally does provide the protection. It might make people feel better, but I don't know that it does serve the ultimate goal. And Shauna, I know there's, I could be wrong, but that's where I'm at. One of you, I don't know.
No, I'm willing to support it here at the committee level because it does need to go to the full legislature. This was direction from our colleagues to come back with a proposal on security, and I think we've done that. But I'm wrestling with it.
Yeah. Shauna.
I would just like to ask Maury, from a legal standpoint, what type of liability are we at as a county employer?
I think it would basically fall into the negligence category. In other words, what is the duty of care that the county is subject to in terms of providing security for its workplaces and other facilities? And did the county reasonably satisfy its duty of care? And those are concepts that they are hard to define with precision, but I would imagine if there were a significant shooting event where there were deaths, one or more deaths, or serious injuries, and there was not security, that the county could face a hefty liability in those situations. Perhaps one way to develop that empirically is to look at legal actions that have been taken against school districts where there have been mass shootings, because it would seem that we could be similarly victimized in a facility like this.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. We should wrap up because we've got some more things to do.
Well, I guess my question then for Maury would be, but couldn't that be said about any employer? I mean, couldn't that be said about Cornell? Or, I mean, really, there's no employer who, if there was a mass shooting event, wouldn't get sued by numerous people.
Well, that's right, but the question then in the action was, were steps taken consistent with the organization's duty of care? And I would be concerned in a situation where there's inadequate security that not only might getting sued is one thing, and that's an expensive proposition. Having liability is another. To a degree, it can be insured, but the county has a $1 million self-insured retention. And also after, there's a layer of insurance above that. After an incident, is that insurance still available?
And they'd probably bring up this meeting and say, violence is up 20% against political officials. You guys knew the risk was increased, and you might or might not have made the decision to arm or unarm.
Yeah, look, this issue has been around for all time. I remember as a young attorney appearing on a Thursday or a Friday before District Judge Duranko on the Southern District of New York. And that weekend he was shot mowing his lawn. That was in the late 1980s. So, is it new that public officials are targets? No, we're just more of a target now. Also, the issue I had brought up previously when I was talking to Mike at the last executive session about being overpowered in a piggyback situation, that happened to me in Manhattan before coming here. And I thought I was going to die. I really did. I was able to slip into the building and then nail the guy's arm with the door, and he went away. but I really thought that my life might have ended there.
Okay. Well, why don't we vote and send it on to the full legislature where we can have this whole discussion all over again? Anything further? Ready to vote? All those in favor? You know, I'm going to vote no, so it will not go on consent agenda. I don't know how I'm going to vote at the full. Okay.
May I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there anything that anybody here recommends that I come prepared for? I mean, I think there's some great questions. I mean, and I'm prepared for it, but I just thought if there's anything in particular, it would be very helpful, because then maybe I can do some research prior to. I don't know. I don't need to know right now, but that would be helpful, you know, because then I could come better prepared.
Will this, I guess, will this be on the agenda for next Tuesday? Or is it second September meeting?
It goes to the 9/11 BCP meeting and then the 10/7 legislature meeting.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time, but yeah, if people have particular questions or answers to Mike's question, sounds like we have a little bit of time to get to.
I think you got a flavor for it today, what you'll hear.
Yeah, I'm prepared for that, but I mean, just if there was something in particular, I'd love to be able to address it.
Sure.
I'd love to hear more about the library.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know.
And that may be a question for someone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep going. Thank you, Mike. There's a lot going on at Emergency Response. Department of Probation and Community Justice. Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much. If I could just add one thing first to the discussion about security. I had occasion to be at an appearance at county court about 3 weeks ago, and there were no fewer than 10 armed security officers there protecting that building for one or two volatile clients that had appearances. So for perspective of that, I know that's not county money, but that's the level of security provided in our county courthouse. Now I'll move on to my tip. I like to be a ray of sunshine in our dark days here where we're talking about things that seem to be horrible. But just doing some math, we have 104,000 people in the community between our jail and probation. We have 560 people under high levels of supervision, which is less, or just shy of, or just above 0.5% of our population. So we're talking about a lot of work for a very small percentage of our citizenry. Just looking at our data dashboard, which I hope you'll all routinely look at, we have 497 adults currently under supervision, 277 pre-sentence investigations we've completed this year, which is about 34 a month. Only 8% of those 277 individuals had prison recommendation, and most of those were prison recommendations were because they were subject to mandatory imprisonment as a prior felony offender. Other than those, we've only recommended jail for 6% of the 277 investigations that we've written, and tried to provide alternatives to incarceration for the rest of those folks. We're working on a model policy for body-worn camera in anticipation of our arming process for 2026. Carla and I went to a presentation yesterday up in Syracuse by one of the preferred providers that was very useful. We're waiting for civil service test results to fill a vacant senior probation officer position, hoping that we have a good list also of potential incoming probation officers to backfill after that promotion occurs. Kudos to Mr. Steitley, Chris Saxon, and Eldon Stevens at Department of Emergency Response, who reconfigured some new radios for us, and that's provided us with training. It's been very beneficial, smooth transition. I also just wanted to give a shout out to my work project supervisors, Tyler Mix and Bill Apgar, who just completed a 3-month project with the Dump and Run program that supports cops, kids, and toys. It was the best sale they've ever had. they're looking at potentially shattering the previous record of money taken in from $87,000 to almost $100,000 this year. That's due to the program's success, Cornell University's cooperation, them having a lot more students who are leaving things, a lot of cooperation and involvement from volunteering from the different police agencies. I always seem to be the one that speaks of this, but it's certainly not a probation endeavor. It involves a lot of the law enforcement agencies, and just wanted to thank all of them because all that money gets donated back to the community for Cops, Kids, and Toys and other projects. So that's all I really have.
Okay.
If I haven't answered an email from you in the last couple of weeks, I've been on vacation and I'm just back today sorting through 1,274 emails. So I will quickly respond to you when I go through them.
Okay, I did have a question, Dan. Are you on timeline for arming your officers that are?
Yes. When we first got the approval, we anticipated it would take about a year for all the training and acquisition of the materials. We have all the equipment that we need except for the firearms, which are supposed to be delivered end of August, beginning of September. We're anticipating completing the firearms portion of the training the first week in November, provided to us for free by the Jefferson County Probation Department staff and Jefferson County. I would anticipate early 2026, we would be seeking to move forward with officers actually being armed in the field.
Okay. And I did have one other question, and I think we talked about this, but I want to make sure that day reporting and the college initiative upstate, that contract was renewed. That's all working okay?
Yeah, that's working out very well. Cornell Cooperative Extension and who provides our, Cornell Cooperative Extension and BOCES are also working together to try to unify the services that we're able to provide over there when it comes to providing GED classes and other things. So I'll be meeting with them probably next week. A lot of emails exchanged over the time that I was gone just to work on those collaborations.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments for our probation department? All right. Thank you, Dan. And we have the assigned counsel program. Is Lance with us?
Let me see, Susan.
Oh, Susan, there you are. I know we have the report in the packet, but does anybody, Susan, do you have anything you want to share?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I know that in the numbers you were sent are incorrect. I believe Lance has sent you corrected numbers. I don't have those in front of me, unfortunately, but I do have a little piece of positive news from Indigent Legal Services, our funder. There's been an extension of a family law grant for the next 3 years. We expect to get $250,000 a year, particularly to focus on neglect and abuse cases, but it can cover all of family law court costs. So we expect that will reduce our overall mandate by at least a small amount. So we're pleased about that.
I think we're pleased too. There's some good news. Okay. Are there questions or comments for Susan?
Thanks for waiting through the agenda here, Susan.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
No problem. It's interesting. Thank you.
All right, any committee members' reports? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, sir.